Amy, are you there? Okay, cool. Well, we're still missing Andrew, but we'll go ahead and start. Welcome to tonight's City Council formal meeting. We're continuing to hold our meetings remotely due to the declarations of emergency related to the pandemic and earthquake. While we hold our meetings remotely, we're still happy to have you join us online or by phone. Thank you for being here. To begin with, we'll take a moment of silence as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance to ourselves. Then when we're done, we'll go ahead and turn the audio and our cameras back on. So please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. While we're conducting our meetings electronically, and that while that may be different than our in-person norms, we still have a few guidelines that we ask that people to follow so that everyone can be comfortable in participating. To help facilitate our meeting, especially the public comment period, please be respectful. Avoid yelling, making racial slurs, obscene or defamatory remarks. We are at item A4 on our agenda, and that is approval of the formal meeting minutes of Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rogers and a second from Councilmember Fowler. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros?
Yes.
Councilmember Romano?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Fowler?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Those pass unanimously. We will move on to item B in our agenda, which is public hearings and general comments. We're going to hear public hearings, our general comments and our public hearings as one item. The standard order of the formal meeting has been adjusted to accommodate our electronic meeting format. And so that's the reason for combining both of these into one section. In addition to the comments given tonight, our office has received a number of public email. Those will be included as part of the public record. I want to take a few minutes to explain our electronic process and go over the rules one more time. Although we are all joining the meeting electronically, we do still want to provide a space for people to feel comfortable. To help facilitate our comment period, please be respectful and again, avoid yelling or making any racial slurs, obscene or defamatory remarks. Please note if a caller is disrespectful, you'll be given one warning. And if the caller continues to disregard the council's meeting rules, then we will mute your microphone. I will read the list of public hearings for the event, and then we will open the public comment period. Our meeting host will then identify the names of 3 commenters at a time so that people can have some notice and be prepared to speak. Our meeting host, if you do not wish to speak, when the host states your name, please let them know that you're just here to listen and we'll move on to the next commenter. If you do wish to speak, when the host unmutes your line, please state your name, indicate the topic on which you're speaking, and whether or not you have a general comment, and then your 2-minute timer will begin. At the 2-minute mark, the host will announce time and your microphone will be muted. If you indicated that you wanted to speak to more than one item, the host will prompt you to move on to your next topic. If you're unable to complete the full comment within the time allotted, please feel free to mail correspondence or full statement to the City Council office at P.O. Box 145476, Salt Lake City, Utah 84114-5476. Or you can email us at council.comments@slcgov.com. Or finally, you can contact us by phone at 801-535-3275 7654. Our staff will be messaging me with the names of the attendees to coordinate the public comment period. Please monitor the chat screen for information and/or feel free to message our staff person, Robert Nutzman, if you have any questions. Before we begin the specific hearings, we're going to take action to reconsider the impact fees facility plan. This item was previously adopted by the council on August 18th, 2020. However, there were issues with information for the public to connect, and so we will be reconsidering that item. I will look for a motion to reconsider the August 18th adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion from Councilmember Fowler and a second from Councilmember Johnston to reconsider the motion, or excuse me, the impact fees facilities plan from August 18th, 2020. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we will proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Valdemoros,
Yes.
Mono,
Yes.
Dugan,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. So next I need to ask for, so we are going to reconsider that now, but I have to ask for another separate motion to reopen the public hearing on that item. Is there?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move the council reopen the public hearing for the impact fee facilities plan for transportation services and proposed amendments to the consolidated fee schedule.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Rogers, a second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion to this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Valdemoros,
Yes.
Mono,
Yes.
Dugan,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously. So we have reopened the public comment period for the impact fee facilities plan. Okay, so now I will read the 5 public hearing items that we have for tonight. Item B is regarding an ordinance that would increase the building heights within a portion of the Gateway Mixed-Use Zoning District from the current maximum of 120 feet up to 190 feet across portions of 2 separate blocks. This is located between 500 West and the railroad tracks at approximately 625 West, and 2nd South and 400 South. Item B2 is regarding an ordinance that would amend the zoning map for several parcels located at 2960, 2964, and 2970 South Richmond Street. Item B3 is to receive input with respect to A, the issuance of $348,635,000 in public utilities revenue bonds for the Water Infrastructure Financing Innovation Act, or the WIFIA loan series 2020B, and B, any potential economic impact that the projected finance of said money and bond may have on the private sector. Item B4 is regarding an ordinance that would amend the final budget of Salt Lake City, including the employment staffing document for the proposed amendment, and amend the employment staffing document. The proposed amendment includes infrastructure for publicly accessible internet access, coronavirus aid relief, and economic security under the CARES Act for personnel costs related to pandemic response, expansion of the city's city youth and family program to help with childcare and education, and funding for housing assistance, among other items. Item B5 is regarding an ordinance that would update the transportation section of the city's impact fees master plan. Bobby, would you go ahead and open up the comment period and let us know the names of the commenters that we have tonight?
Hi, Council Chair. It's Amanda tonight.
Oh, geez. Okay. Hi, Amanda. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Quick note for everyone who's joining tonight. If you joined, you'll be added to the queue. We are posting the next 10 names in the chat so you can see who's coming next. If you're just here to listen, feel free to let us know by sending a chat to Robert Nutzman. Thanks so much. First, we have Oliver Harrington, followed by Sage Thee, and then Emily Allworth. Oliver?
Hi, sorry. I don't know if I'll be able to condense everything that I want to say. I just, while I recognize that it's not a topic on the table, I think it's really important to voice my concerns about HB 415, SB 210, and then the executive order that was released at the beginning of August. I just am concerned about the effects of taking away the power of our communities to protect ourselves in a proper way. And I think that it's important that we push for more community control and perhaps like a community panel to oversee police action and stuff. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Oliver. We can have staff get you some information on the state legislators that you can contact about that as well.
Okay, thank you, Sage, for being here to listen. Next, we have Emily Allworth, followed by Ethan Marion, and then Liz DeFries. Emily?
Hi there. I want to first do a general comment and ask for pressure by the City Council to stop the retaliatory investigations against people protesting the Salt Lake Police Department. I think that some of the actions taken and then undone, such as adding gang enhancement charges to people peacefully protesting and trying to manipulate destruction of property into a violent crime is really an atrocity, and I would appreciate the City Council's support of its citizens' rights to protest. I would also like to comment on the notice of hearing around the rezoning of South Richmond Street. I think that the City Council should vote to approve the creation of more multifamily housing with affordable housing units. I think this is a really great idea and a great way to show your solidarity with low income people in Salt Lake and to encourage multifamily households, which will over time help mitigate climate change and produce a better Salt Lake for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Next, we have Ethan Marion, followed by Liz DeFries, and then Madalena McNeil. Ethan?
Hi there, and I just wanted to clarify, is this the general comments or is this comments related to the particular item we were just discussing?
This is your time to comment either on a general comment or on any of the public hearing items that we listed before.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Yeah, I'll just jump in with some general comments then. Kind of echo some of what I've heard from some other comments so far, but I would really want to urge the City Council and the Mayor, I want all of you to kind of really use your power and influence to stop those retaliatory investigations against protesters, and just really kind of recognizing that suppressing protesters who are speaking out against them is a clear conflict of interest. I would really hope that you guys would call for Sim Gill to resign at this point, as he's refusing to challenge unjust laws, to really kind of hold police accountable for violence. He has a history of inaction and racism, and really kind of want him out now at this point. I think another kind of key piece would be really getting rid of and ending the use of gang enhancement. as this is just a tool to intimidate and silence protesters. Some other things that I feel like would be really important are calling for and supporting all charges being dropped and protecting protester rights. A key piece of this is all the laws, policies, and ordinances such as SB 173, HB 415. These need to be repealed and removed so that the community can have control and there's actually accountability for the things happening in our state, in our city. And so really kind of urging everyone to very vocally support the repeal of HB 415 as well. Kind of a key piece of reinvesting all policing funds into community resources. And so that is all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We can have staff get you contact information so that you can contact Sim Gill and let him know your thoughts as well.
Thank you.
Next, we have Liz DeFries, followed by Andrew Bybee, and then Doug Thim. Liz?
Yeah, I'm going to continue on a similar theme. I would like to use my time to urge the City Council and Mayor to use their power and influence to achieve the following demands. So I don't want to be referred to other people. I want you guys to take specific action on the following demands. So number one, stop retaliatory investigations and remove conflicts of interest. The Salt Lake City Police Department and Sim Gill are actively conducting retaliatory investigations into the protesters who are speaking out against them. This is a clear conflict of interest. Number two, call for Sim Gill to resign. Sim Gill refuses to challenge unjust laws in order to hold the police accountable for violence. His complete inaction around police violence and racism and his simultaneous persecution against protesters demonstrates his commitment to government-sanctioned violence and oppression. We want him out now. Number three, end use of gang enhancement. The use of gang enhancement is clearly a tool to intimidate and silence protesters and to criminalize communities of color. It should only be used against the police gangs who murder marginalized community members. Number four, call for all charges dropped and protect protester rights. We will not tolerate the criminalization of those brave enough to bring awareness and resistance to the racist, classist, and innately oppressive nature of the police as it functions only to protect white supremacy and capital interests. We will not tolerate the use of force nor the criminalization of protesters enacting their right to assemble, express free speech, and actively disrupt systems of oppression. All laws, policies, and ordinances such as SB 173, which restrict these rights to protest, must be abolished. Number five, support repeal of HB 415. Repealing HB 415 is the first step in paving the way for true accountability and community control. We will not be satisfied with internal investigations of police or toothless civilian review boards. In addition to these demands, I would also like to echo the demands of community activists to add demand number 6, reinvest all policing funds to community resources. Hired guns of the ruling class do not and can never create safer communities for the exploited class. We completely reject all proposals to maintain or increase funding to the Salt Lake City PD, including the proposal to add 4 FTEs and 4 vehicles for the Sheriff Department. We will hold all political leaders accountable for their inaction towards these demands. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Andrew Bybee, for being here to listen. Next, we have Ainsley Monch, followed by Doug Thim, and then Elsa Dillman. Ainsley?
I would like to also echo some of the demands that were put on. Stopping the retaliatory investigations and removing the conflicts of interest with Sim Gill. These charges are pretty much only designed to intimidate people and intimidate other protesters. And the fact that the gang enhancement charge was removed, it wasn't even it proves that it wasn't a thorough charge to begin with, and it was only put on to intimidate other protesters and has now been taken off. We should ask Sim Gill to resign. He has been continuously defending the murderers, cops, and instead of allying with the community, and the use of gang enhancement. It is terrible. It is only, it's racist is what it is. I am calling for all the charges to be dropped in protecting protester rights, and then also asking that the City Council support the repeal of HB 415. I do understand that that's with the legislature, but I also understand that the city has certain lobbyists that go up and talk to the legislature, and I hope that you use some of your power as a city council to influence the legislatures, the state legislators, to repeal HB 415. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, was that Ainsley?
Yes, that was Ainsley Monch. And thank you, Doug Thim. You let me know that you're here to listen. Next, we have Elsa Dillman, followed by Jeanette M., and then Ann Charles. Elsa?
I'm just here to listen, thanks.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Jeanette M., followed by Ann Charles, and then Nathan Ricks. Jeanette?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'm liking what I'm hearing. I guess I decided to join just to kind of listen in, but in hearing the comments about repealing HB 415, and also the demands on dropping the charges for protesters, I just wanted to kind of echo that concern as well. I think what's being done is, in fact, a tactic just to suppress the voices of people who want to be heard, who need to be heard, who have no other way to be heard other than to protest. So hold on, buddy. So I just wanted to echo the need to drop the charges for those protesters. And I will end with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Ann Charles, followed by Nathan Ricks, and then we have calling user 4. Phone number has 867. Ann Charles?
Hi, I wanted to echo a lot of what other people were saying, specifically about Sim Gill and his use of gang enhancement to prosecute protesters. I think that's pretty bogus, and I don't think it's a good policy in general. I think the use of gang enhancement usually is targeting people of color and people who have few resources, and that should be looked at. I don't know what authority you all have, but you should push Sim Gill to do that and then push him out of office, because even Aaron Mendenhall recognized that what he was doing was excessive, and I think you all should talk to him, since that's kind of your role. I also I wanted to positively recognize you guys for joining the government Alliance on Race and Equity. I think that's super cool, and I appreciate that. And I wanted to also mention the Raise Up Salt Lake Fund that you all have. I think it's super cool. But when I went to donate money, I also got a charge from Visa, which I don't know why we would have to go through them to give money directly to people. I think that's something you all should look at, since I can give my landlord money over Venmo and I'm not charged. You all should look at an alternate way to take money from people and give it directly to people instead of also giving money to Visa, which I didn't want to do, but at the end of the day, I did. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Nathan Ricks, followed by calling user 4, phone number with 867, and then Justin Johnson. Nathan?
Yeah, I just want to thank the council for your consideration of the zone text amendment for the change of the height that has been submitted. I know it's been going on for many months, and we appreciate you guys taking it in and looking at it closely. We think it is the right thing to do to promote density around rail stops, in particular in that part of town. So thanks for your efforts. That's all I wanted to say. And I guess we'll have a further action on the 14th or something.
Thank you for calling in.
Next, we have call-in user 4, phone number 867, followed by Justin Johnson, and then call-in user 6, phone number has 928. Call-in user 4, if you could let us know your name and then proceed with your comment.
Hi, this is George Chapman. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I have a comment on almost everything there, so I apologize for the time I'm going to spend. But the first item is the Gateway Mixed Use Zone, increased building height. And I thought we were trying to do more affordable housing, and I thought you were allowing increased height. You did it on streetcar zoning in Sugar House, but I thought increased height was allowed if they had some affordable housing set aside. The best chance right now for putting in affordable housing now, not waiting for a couple of years in the future, but right now, is to allow them to increase the height to 190 feet and require them to have some affordable housing set aside. They can use tax credits. There are lots of them available. You've worked with Cowboy Partners doing it. Why can't these people do it? Don't increase height on any project unless they have a affordable housing set aside. It also goes for the Sears block. On the Richmond Street rezone, the adjacent single-family home neighborhood should not be impacted by this project, but it is because it allows restaurants. You're allowing restaurants right next to single-family homes, which are going to negatively impact them. And you're also allowing parking on the street, and it doesn't have parking on the street. We've been trying for 10 years to put in a wide bicycle lane, and you effectively throwing that out the window if you rezone this and build this. Why aren't you doing inclusionary zoning like on the Stack and Brickyard? That's apartments that you should be pushing on, and forcing homeowners to be to do this to allow their privacy to be destroyed is wrong. So I'm against that rezone. This is one of the few streets that could have a separated bike lane, but you're effectively throwing it out the window. I need to emphasize again, I know, Andrew, you're on top of this, but the fact that we're putting affordable housing, low-income housing on an area that's going to require the low-income people to walk in one of the most unsafe sidewalks in Salt Lake City to get to a grocery store is disrespectful beyond belief. You should not be doing this. I know people are going to be killed, kids are going to be killed. You should not be having them go on a sidewalk that is actually below and right next to a street. Those are my comments on Richmond Street. On the Public Utilities Revenue Bond, thank you for the staff for getting back to me on the concern about the 4%. I agree it should be closer to 1.6%, and I am concerned still. So I'm just asking you to make sure the state treasurer looks at that and make sure that that's appropriate. And with respect to that bond, that state treasurer does due diligence on all of our contracts if you let him. And I encourage you to run the 25-year solar energy contract through them, because it sounds like, from what I understand, it sounds like you're going to obligate the taxpayers of this city to something similar to what Utopia did. And 25 years is way out of line, especially since solar power is going down in cost significantly. 20 years ago, it was $5 a kilowatt hour. Now it's less than 5 cents. So you're effectively obligating taxpayers significantly over the next 25 years. 15 years is there for a reason. I urge you to have this reviewed by the state treasurer. Those are my comments on the Public Utilities Revenue Bond. On the CARES Act funds, I still don't understand why the Salt Lake Police Department can't use more of the funds for walk-in patrols, and especially since the county is not providing enough jail space or DA funding or mental health care to keep the drug dealers and violent criminals in jail, even when they've been arrested dozens of times. So effectively, the Salt Lake Police Department is playing whack-a-mole. They don't need to arrest people. They don't need to give tickets, but they should be patrolling these areas. And I need to give a shout out, don't quote me again, but I congratulate Mayor Mendenhall for the effort that she's putting forth on trying to get people together to work on homeless camps, not just social workers, but justice courts. We've been complaining for 5 years that people are, homeless are getting hundreds of tickets, literally, and they're being arrested hundreds of times because of it, because they don't pay the tickets, they get the warrants. 100 times being arrested. Look at the jail dashboard. That's ridiculous. The CARES Act can go a long way to providing walking police patrols, not to ticket, not to arrest, but just to tamp down some of the obvious criminal behavior. Thank you, Mayor, Council, for rising up at Salt Lake SLC. That was a great program, and I thank you for your efforts on trying to address the homeless camps and giving free private bio-waste removal. That was really impressive. Thank you. On transportation impact to fees, again, I call your attention to page 24, which in my mind shows inequity between the west side of Salt Lake City and the east side of Salt Lake City. And I also want to emphasize that all of the projects you discussed earlier today should be part of the impact fee discussion and allow a public hearing. I know you want it, but it can be done really fast, but some of the projects don't make sense, and the public and community really wants some of the projects prioritized, like the 9-line trail between 600 West and State Street. I mean, that's what it really needs to upgrade the community. And the Foothill Trails plan deserves a lot more. Why isn't that getting more money? And I need to also point out that roundabouts cause problems with bicyclists. You shouldn't be considering more traffic calming in this plan until you evaluate the actual impact on roundabouts on our bicycling community. I hear it's pretty bad. And in general, finally, I still am concerned that Salt Lake City is, at the same time you're adopting the digital equity plan, you're making it harder for people who don't have access to a high-speed internet or a fast computer. You're making it harder for them to access public documents, and you have a lot of surveys going out that actually require that, and that should be easier. So finally, on general comments, I think Sim Gill is the most ethical public servant I know, and I don't always agree with him, but I think he's done a great job. You know him. He's been amazing at reviewing some of these issues. I know people are upset by some of the police shootings, but the reality is people with guns are going to be shot by police. That happens. And trying to find an example in Salt Lake City of police brutality, if the best one you can find is a robber, an armed robber with a gun, that's an insult to George Floyd. Please don't do that. HB 414 was justified because of a disrespectful and subjective finding by a civilian review board decision that Sim Gill was opposed to, and I think Sim Gill was right. Again, I don't always agree with him, but Sim Gill, again, is one of the most, he's the most respectful person I know. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Okay, and next time, we need a little bit more time in between each comment so that we can reset the timer to make sure we're respecting the time guidelines.
Alrighty. Next, we have Justin Johnson, followed by calling user 6. Phone number has 928, and then Antonio F. Justin?
Okay, I guess I'm unmuted now. Not sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. To comment on the last speaker's comment first, that is not the only case. I think what's more important is the gang enhancement charges that Sim Gill is bringing about, which is why we need HB 415. Additionally, there are always mistakes in any process, but you can't take away community oversight, because community oversight is what keeps all things in line. And you guys as elected officials should be very clearly aware of that, especially at a time when where there's active politicians at the very, very highest of levels that are trying to remove oversight of their activity. And therefore, I hope that you would also keep that in mind, that community oversight is what keeps the community happy and safe and keeps people elected. And so by removing that, you risk your own jobs, but also you risk the safety of the community. And so I think the gang enhancement charges of the previous speaker should be the one that he should be focused on too. And that's why people are angry at Sim Gill, which made international news, by the way, which also makes Salt Lake City look very, very badly when it's making international news for charging people, threatening people with life sentences for spraying paint. Stuff should be done, of course, but not life sentences. Next point, the retaliatory and investigations and conflicts of interest. It kind of all goes together. But again, same thing like we have with trials. You want to bring in people that can give more impartial feedback, more general thinking, and actually have people have disagreement on it. You don't need an unanimous decision, but you need people that have various opinions. I think that's something that's lacking. I think it's very difficult in a state like Utah. I am African American, Black. I prefer to use Black, but for whatever race identifications you guys need, I will use both. That it is important that even though there's a small percentage, that it is represented, and not because it's only because that minority that is very small can often speak volumes for that minority that often doesn't speak up within the larger majority group. So those people that are struggling, maybe not because they're Black, but because they identify with a lot of other issues that the Black community sees. And so therefore, it is important to have a variety of those opinions and bring those in and also have that conflict.
Thank you, Justin.
Next, we have call-in user 6. Phone number has 928. And then Antonio F., followed by David Newland. Call-in user 6, if you could let us know your name and then proceed with your comment.
All right. My name is Nicole Taylor. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So topic number 1 on stopping retaliatory investigations and removing conflict of interest. So the Salt Lake City Police Department and Sam Gill are actively conducting retaliatory investigations into the protesters for speaking out against them. This is a very clear conflict of interest and serves to intimidate and silence those fighting for an end to state-sanctioned violence. Number 2, I would recommend calling for Sim Gill to resign. Sim Gill refuses to challenge unjust laws in order to hold the police accountable for murder and violence. His complete inaction around police violence and racism and his simultaneous persecutions against protesters demonstrates his commitment to government-sanctioned violence and oppression, and we want him out now. We can't wait. It needs to end now. Number 3, that we need to end the use of gang enhancement. The use of, quote unquote, gang enhancement is clearly a tool to intimidate and silence protesters and to criminalize communities of color. It should only be used against the police gangs who murder marginalized community members. Next topic. I want to call for all charges to be dropped and protect protester rights. So we will not tolerate the criminalization of those brave enough to bring awareness and resistance to the racist, classist, and innately oppressive nature of the police as it functions only to protect white supremacy and capital interests. We will not tolerate the use of force, nor the criminalization of protesters enacting their rights to assemble, express free speech, and actively disrupt systems of oppression. All laws, policies, and ordinances, such as SB 173, which restrict these rights to protest, must be abolished. Next and last topic. We need to support the repeal of HB 415. Repealing HB 415 is the first step in paving the way for true accountability and community control. We will not be satisfied with the internal investigations of police.
Thank you for your comments.
Next, we have Antonio F., followed by David Newland, and then Ian Harris. Antonio?
Hi, I'm Antonio. I'm with the Rose Park Brown Berets. I'm just here just to stand in I'm here to talk about anti-gentrification, but I stand in solidarity with the protesters for y'all to stop the retaliatory investigation, putting pressure on Sim Gill to resign, to protect protesters' rights, to end the use of gang enhancement and all that good stuff. So, and I'm here to talk about the alley development that we were here 3 months ago talking about, for y'all to stop the rezoning of it. So the property is located on 347, 353, 359 North, and 700 West in Rose Park. And we're just demanding y'all just to put a stop to this project and to put pressure on CW Urban to put a stop to this development, because it's going to be kicking poor people out, predominantly families of color. And it's also going to increase the police violence in the area, because these developers, they also said that they want more police in the area. And you already know what happens when the police are, patrolling people of color. So there was also a petition that was given to y'all back in April to put a stop to this project. And I feel like it wasn't fair at all to our community for y'all to vote for the rezoning to happen. And like over here in the West Side, we're struggling, every single day. And you guys promised that you guys would push this agenda after the pandemic. Well, you guys lied to us, because 4 weeks later, you guys already signed on the rezoning. So it just shows you who you guys, are. You guys are about profit, and you guys are not about the people. And but yeah, so we hope you guys, put a stop to this project, the LA development, and to rezone it back to SR1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have David Newland, followed by Ian Harris, and then Roberto S. David?
Hey, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
So just to begin, I'm going to echo everything that Antonio just said about the LA development. We absolutely need to end that. It should not have gone forward. The rezoning should not have happened. And I'm just going to echo everything that he said about that. I 100% support that. And this is a bad thing for our communities of color. This is a bad thing for Salt Lake City. And we got to put a stop to that. Next thing I wanted to just mention was to echo some of the other things that people have said as well, related to the ongoing police brutality, the ongoing political repression that is happening in our city. And I guess I'll phrase it this way. I understand that this council does not have the power to do, statutorily have the power to do things like end the retaliatory investigations, to call for or to make Sim Gill resign, et cetera, et cetera. But I think this council needs to understand that their power goes beyond just what exists statutorily, right? I think it means a lot for people on this council to be more open, to be more bold about saying that the police chief, Mike Brown, needs to stop these ridiculous investigations against protesters for doing essentially nothing other than expressing their First Amendment rights, to say that police brutality is disgusting and wrong. You know what I mean? You all need to put pressure on people to stop these investigations, right? Y'all need to finally call Sim Gill out for his complete inability to actually represent the people, and his total willingness to let murderous police officers off the hook, right? I want to see my city council calling people out on that and saying, Sim Gill, no, you know what? You've done such a bad job that you ought to resign, right? I absolutely want to see this city council saying that these charges need to be dropped against protesters. For the last year and a half, we've seen so many different people being charged for basically ridiculous things, and that's got to stop. And I want to see the city council do that.
Thank you for your comments, David.
Next, we have Ian Harris, followed by Roberto S., and then Sabrina Franks. Ian?
Yeah, thanks. I'm a Salt Lake City resident. As such, I just wanted to echo and amplify the demands that've been heard tonight. Asking for changes to be made to legislation, police policy that is being governed to prevent conflicts of interest within the justice system, retaliatory charges being raised against protesters, and to prevent the use of gang enhancements against protesters. 2, for protesters' rights to be protected and charges against protesters to be dropped. 3, for SimGill to resign. I understand that you guys only have as much power as we do, but I think you all have at least as much responsibility to use that power. And for support in repealing HB 415. It's, I really don't know if reforms like this are enough or possible to get everything we're asking for, but it's what we're here for. This is one example of the right way to protest I've been given. So we're here trying to be civilized about these demands, and this is the way that changes are supposed to happen. And I don't know if that's true, but what I do know is that the movement for defunding the police is to protect people better and to meet the needs of the people you represent better. And this movement did not start this year or because of anything that any one of us did or were part of, but it won't end the day after the council releases a statement of support. And it involves all of us. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Sorry, I had to step off for a minute to plug my light back in. But I did hear you, so thanks. Go ahead to the next commenter.
Okay, and next we have Roberto S., followed by Sabrina Franks, and then Catherine Van Sleen. Roberto?
Hello, I'm Roberto, and I'm with the Brown Berets. Obviously, we stand in solidarity with the protesters and ask for all charges to be dropped since, I guess, last winter from the time of the Take Shelter Coalition. But specifically, we're here to talk about gentrification and the LA development, which we have been kind of arguing against since, Antonio said, since March and April. Our calls have been ignored for the most part. We had some petitions that the residents nearby signed in protest against, and those were completely ignored. I don't know. We really hope that something can be done about this, and for us to not be ignored anymore. It kind of shows where your interests lie when you ignore us, when you kind of go behind our backs, kind of in a way, when you make the process not transparent at all. And even when, like, for example, Aaron Mendenhall had the chance to veto the rezoning decision and chose not to. So on all, please do what you can to change the rezoning. Maybe, I'm not sure. At least, respond to us, to our emails, and to the emails other people send to you guys about this, because obviously you guys have been ignoring it, and I think it's for a reason. Thanks.
Next, we have Sabrina Franks, followed by Catherine Van Sleen, and then Aaron Moore. Sabrina?
Echo what Roberto said as well about the gentrifying in Rose Park. I also wanted to comment that there needs to be, the charges need to be dropped against protesters, and we need to end the use of gang enhancements in general. We also, I think we should be calling for SimGill to resign. I don't think he's done a good job in his role, and especially with his actions against protesters. My final comment, I would encourage the council to stop clearing homeless camps. It actually goes against CDC guidelines concerning COVID and the homeless community to clear encampments because it causes the homeless to disperse and potentially spread infection. I think it'd be smarter to increase shelter beds or look into building another shelter because obviously we do not have enough shelter beds, or find a place where we can have the homeless camp without the threat of having their camp cleared and all their belongings taken from them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
And next we have Catherine Van Sleen, followed by Aaron Moore, and then Jade Arter. Catherine?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Great. First I just wanted to express my disappointment in the Raise Up SLC thing. It doesn't support enough of us anyway. And more than that, I find it straight up offensive to ask us to crowdfund a program like this when we've been practicing mutual aid on our own for months. And you've already set aside $1 million from the police budget, so you should use that instead. My next comment is about your continuation of Operation Rio Grande, or what I guess you're calling neighborhood cleanups or cleanings now. Mayor, that is going to be another ugly stain on your record. I know that what you mean by outreach in those communities is expanding police presence in those communities, and I know how the police treat them. And I also know that you have done nothing to support the many organizations that have been doing this work already for months and have requested help. I also stand in solidarity with the Rose Park Brown Berets demands. I want them to be heard. I don't support gentrification or the rezoning decision or the development that's occurring. And I also stand in solidarity with the protesters. I call for you to do everything in your power to stop the retaliatory investigations and charges against protesters, and to call for Sim Gill's resignation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
And next we have Aaron Moore. Next we have Aaron Moore, followed by Jade Arter, and then Charlie Shaw. Aaron?
Hi, y'all. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hi. So I just wanted to start by saying I agree with pretty much everything everyone else has been saying about the retaliatory investigations coming from Sim Gill's office, where he's also clearly expressing a conflict of interest with his gang enhancement charges and whatnot. I wanted to also express my support of the Brown Berets messages about gentrification of their neighborhood. This is kind of out of left field, but I just wanted to read really quickly from the city's contract with the police union to let y'all know, and those who might still be listening, that you do have the power, at least according to the contract, to make meaningful change in the police department if you want to. I only read this because I see a lot of shrugging coming from the mayor's office about how much can be done by the city when it comes to the police department's actions. So reading from the document really quick, just skipping around for time. The city has the exclusive right to, among other things, the exclusive right to take disciplinary action for just cause, relieve its police officers from duty because of lack of work or other legitimate reasons, which I would think killing civilians might be a legitimate reason. Take whatever actions as may be necessary to carry out its responsibilities in situations of emergency. And that's just to throw that out there, that at least according to this document, it seems like you do have more power than you're letting on. And I'm tired of feeling like I'm getting a lot of "we can't do anything" from specifically the mayor. And even if you can't, you still have the ability to go to their office as a person in power and talk to them if you disagree with what they're doing. And I also just wanted to throw it out there that the crowdfunding campaign Raise Up SLC is, like Katie Van Sleen said before me, is insulting to the poor people of SLC who have been crowdfunding ourselves with mutual aid programs for almost 7 months now. The police fund has $1 million set aside, so take it from there. That's all. Thank you.
Next, we have Jade Arter, followed by Charlie Shaw, and then Jessica Arthurs. Jade?
Yeah, I just want to start with saying that I also stand in solidarity with the Rose Park Brown Berets, and I believe that the LA development should be evaluated again for the well-being of the community, and especially during these critical times. I feel like it is the responsibility of your office and the positions that you all hold to protect the most vulnerable, which would also include stopping the harassment of the unsheltered, especially during the time of pandemic where resources are so limited. That should be a prioritization, and instead it's been civilians, organizations, organizers, and individuals filling in and doing their best to provide care or just like looking out for those who are most vulnerable in our city. And along with that, I'd also like to demand that you all take a stand and support the protesters and stand against the retaliatory investigations, and also make a call for Sim Gill to resign. And in addition, end use of gang enhancement on protesters that is clearly meant to intimidate and silence those who are coming out to fight for justice and to create a better, more democratic city to live in for all of us, and call for the charges against protesters to be dropped. I also would urge you to support the repeal of HB 415 because it's the first step in paving the way for accountability and community control. And we are not satisfied with the internal investigations of police and demand that the people are able to say who and how.
Next, we have Charlie Shaw, followed by Jessica Arthurs, and then call-in user 8. Phone number has 674. Oh, it seems Charlie has left. So next we have Jessica Arthurs, followed by call-in user 8, and then Nora Price. Jessica?
I don't know if this is a phrase hot mess, but they say something at the beginning like
Jessica Arthurs?
There's no basis for
We'll go ahead and message her and then move to the next person. Calling user 8, phone number has 674, and then Nora Price, followed by Mark Barrett. Calling user 8, if you could say your name and then proceed with your comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, my name's Jaden. I just wanted to echo what everyone else is saying. I would ask that the City Council put pressure on the DA's office and Sim Gill to resign, as well as to drop the gang enhancement. I also think that the gentrification in Rose Park is reprehensible, and that the City Council also has the power to do something about it, and I call for them to do something about it.
Thank you, Jaden. And next we have Nora Price, followed by Mark Barrett, and then Amber Whitaker. Nora?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, hi, I'm a District 5 resident. I too have a general comment urging the council and mayor to actively exert pressure in the wider legislative body for the repeal of HB 415. We need to remove this obstruction to real community control of police accountability and review that has actual access and teeth rather than allowing them to continue investigating themselves. The investigations of protesters connected with the July 9th protest are retaliatory and egregious, so I also urge you to exert your influence to achieve an end to the gang enhancement generally, drop all charges brought against those assembling in protest, and call for the resignation of DA Sim Gill, who defers to the broadest possible interpretations of the statutes to defend police brutality and murder, and to suppress and intimidate dissenters. And I also urge you to provide some pushback against gentrification on the west side regarding rezoning and development. Please pay attention to the Rose Park Brown Berets and their calls for action and transparency. Chair Wharton, correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't hear anyone offering to refer them to further information or hook them up with other legislators here today. I also want to add that although I'm enthusiastically echoing a lot of collective demands and grievances that have been expressed similarly, I also have a sense of nuance personally. I do believe some property destruction is violent. For example, I think agents of the state seizing and destroying the belongings of unsheltered people is violent, and seizing and withholding the belongings of prisoners and their tools for accessing their legal counsel is violent. But the alleged property destruction at the Justice Building was not violence and should not be charged as such. I would like to specifically comment also regarding youth and family. I wasn't able to tune in earlier, but I would love to see even more resources diverted to youth and family to aid in this time of high unemployment and uncertain school availability, specifically divesting from SLCPD and investing in youth and family, which I think would have been a better model for the Raise Up initiative as well. Thank you.
Next, we have Mark Barrett, followed by Amber Whitaker, and then Ali Mattia. And then Madalena McNeil. My apologies. Mark?
Are you able to hear me? So, Sim Gill had me arrested and put in Salt Lake jail for over a year for crimes I did not do. The body camera video shows I did not do it. And I was never allowed to have the body camera video used as evidence in court. I was held in jail for over a year. It was a Class A misdemeanor. I did the full amount of time. And I'm still waiting for district court to withdraw my coerced guilty pleas, which I only pled guilty to get out of jail. Then shortly afterwards, I talked to a CBS reporter named Brian and told him 1 out of 5 people that plead guilty actually didn't do the crime. They just did it to get out of jail. Then when the CBS reporter talked to Sim Gill 2 days after that, suddenly my probation officer said, I have to arrest you as a suspected terrorist because the prosecutor's department called APNP and told them to have me arrested as a suspected terrorist. Then I was held in jail for over a year when the body camera video shows I never did the assault on an officer charge. I never touched it. So I just wanted to say that that happened to me. I'm still waiting for district court to process my case. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you for your comments. And council staff, can we just, anybody that's interested or wants information on how to contact their other elected officials, if you can just let us know either in the chat or something, and we'll make sure that we get you connected with whether it's the DA or your state legislators or anyone else.
Okay, and next we have Amber Whitaker, followed by Madalena McNeil, and then Ali Mattia. Amber? Amber Whitaker? We'll go ahead and message her to see if she'd like to comment.
Thank you.
Next we have Madalena McNeil, followed by Ali Mattia, and then David Kakanindin. Madalena?
Hi, I would just like to comment on a couple things. I just want to quickly echo what was said earlier by members of the Rose Park Brown Berets about the Ellie development and the zoning going back to SR1, if that's at all possible. I think this is something that this city council should take really seriously and that we really trust you to be taking seriously. And it's really important to listen to those comments from community members who are directly impacted and who are seeing the devastating impact that this is having on families, especially at a time, there's a pandemic, there's a housing housing crisis. We need to be taking this pretty seriously. And I want to just echo what everyone else has said about dropping charges against all protesters. And I would ask the city council to look into if there's a way for you all to divest from the district attorney's office for future investigations of this nature, whether that would be having a city prosecutor, having some kind of other system set up so that these investigations are no longer going through the district attorney's office. I know this experience has made me lose confidence in the district attorney's ability to process city cases, and I think that's true for a lot of people. And I would just ask, I know that this is a county issue because it is the county jail, but since Salt Lake City Police Department takes inmates to the county jail, that you all use your position and your influence to look into the fact that inmates of the jail are not given masks or hand sanitizer or any other kind of PPE to keep them safe while they're in the jail facilities. And that's a really high risk environment for COVID-19. And I think that is everything I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Madalena.
We will go back to Amber Whitaker to see if her mic is working. And then followed by Ali Mattia and then David Kakaninden. Amber? Amber, if you're speaking, we still can't hear you. We will go ahead and troubleshoot with her to the side. Sorry.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ali Mattia, followed by David Kakaninden, and then we'll see if we can go back to Amber. Ali?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Yeah, my name is Ali, and we all have the right to protest injustice, and I think it's ridiculous that Sim Gill is charging protesters, coupled with his initial use of enhancement, which is blatantly oppressive and disproportionately criminalizes communities of color. It was an attempt to intimidate, and I demand you urge Sim Gill to resign and all charges against protesters are dropped. Protesters speaking out against government-sanctioned violence and racism and then being investigated by SLCPD is a conflict of interest and needs to stop. And I also want you to be an advocate for the repeal of HB 415, which prevents our community from creating a democratically elected board that oversees the police, which is also blatantly oppressive. Also, instead of taking money from your constituents to fund the Raise Up program, I think you should take money from the police department. And lastly, I do not support the rezoning and echo with the Brown Berets. And thank you.
Next, we have David Kakan. Oh, seems David has left. Next, we have Bridget Dunbeck, and we'll see if we can return to Amber Whitaker. Oh, it seems Bridget has also left. We'll try again with Amber and see if we can get her mic to work. Amber? Amber, if you're speaking, we're still not able to hear you. I'll chat with you separately in the chat and see if we can get your message through email. Thank you so much for being here. Council Chair, that is all the names we have right now.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you to everybody who provided public comment. And again, if you would like information on how to contact some of your other elected officials about these matters as well, we'll be happy to provide that for you. Just let us know either in the chat or on the email address provided earlier. So that concludes our public comment portion and brings us to, let's see. Yes, the first ordinance that we heard tonight, which was the zoning text amendment to increase building height limits in a portion of the GNU zone. I'll look for a motion.
Council Chair.
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting. We do have Jessica Arthurs who is back. If we can take one more comment.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Jessica Arthurs. Go ahead. Jessica?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'll be really quick. I'm so sorry. I'm a grad student at the University of Utah. I was taking a study break at a very inopportune time. I am echoing a lot of what my community members are here to say that we want to stop retaliatory investigations, or we want you to use your power and influence as people who are, I hope, devoted to the city as much as we are, to stop retaliatory investigations and remove conflicts of interest, to call for Sim Gill to resign, to end the use of gang enhancement, and to call for all charges dropped and to protect protester rights. I have been on the streets, as a lot of the people here have as well. I've seen police brutality firsthand. I've seen people beaten. I've seen cops without badge numbers. I'm so abhorred that this is happening in my city, and I would urge you to talk to the Salt Lake City Police Department to try and protect, or whoever you're calling in, the Unified Police, the Highway Patrol, to protect the people on our streets, the people who, again, you are devoted to, I would hope. I'm asking for you to use your power and influence to talk to our legislatures to support the repeal of HB 415. Community control is so important. And I would also ask that you use your power and influence to protect our unhoused communities. I've seen like really scary accounts of our unhoused like encampments being torn down. It's 100 degrees. People don't have access to resource centers. They've been scattered throughout our entire city. So please just use your platform to continue to protect and promote the human rights of the people in Salt Lake City. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, council members, we'll go back to the first item, first ordinance that we were briefed on, the zoning text amendment to increase building height limits in a portion of the GMU zone. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the council continue the public hearing to the September 15th formal meeting.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Mono, second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we will go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Aldermoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. We'll move on to item number 2, which is the ordinance for Richmond Street zoning map amendment at 2960 and 2964 and 2970 South Richmond Street. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, sorry. I'm going to do that again. Mr. Chair, I move that the council close this public hearing and note a second public hearing has been scheduled for September 15th.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Fowler and a second from Councilmember Mono. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That brings us to item B3. That is the public utilities revenue bond to receive input with respect to the issuance of the $348 million $348,635,000 Public Utilities Revenue Bond for Water Infrastructure Financing Innovation Act, or WIFIA, Series 2 or 2020B, and B, any potential economic impact that the project finance with said bond may have on the private sector. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I defer to Dan Dugan. I move that the council close the public hearing. The council took action on this item on August 18th, 2020.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Dugan, and the motion from Councilmember Johnston. Is there any discussion to this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote to close the public hearing. Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Valdemoros,
Yes.
Mono,
Yes.
Dugan,
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes. Everyone was talking at the same time. It was so weird.
Yeah, we've had some WebEx problems with that lately, but okay, thank you. And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously. We will move on to budget item, not budget item, item B4, which is the budget amendment number 2 for fiscal year 2020 to 2021. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and adopt an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2020-21 final budget of Salt Lake City for CARES Act funding as requested by the administration.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Johnston and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Valdemoros,
Yes.
Mono,
Yes.
Dugan,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously. We are on item B5, which is an ordinance that would update the transportation section of the city's impact fees facilities plan. I'll look for a motion.
I almost said Your Honor, already prepping for tomorrow. Mr. Chair, I would move that the council continue the public hearing to a future date.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Fowler, a second from Councilmember Valdemoros. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Valdemoros,
Yes.
Mono,
Yes.
Dugan,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. That passes unanimously. We are now at section C of our agenda. This is the comment section. We've already addressed item C1, which is comments to the city council. That brings us to item C2. Council members, are there any questions for Mayor Mendenhall? Okay, I don't think so. Thank you for being here, Mayor.
Always a pleasure. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could I take a quick moment of personal privilege?
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to make a comment that there is a good reason that executive officials, whether they're the president or mayors or council members, are not empowered to tell law enforcement who to investigate and who not to investigate. I think you really only have to look at the White House's actions over the last 4 years for proof of why we need to prevent that kind of political interference. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your comments. Does anyone else have any questions for the mayor? Okay, we will go ahead and move on to item D, which is potential action items. We have one potential action item regarding an ordinance that would amend the zoning map and future land use map for 2 properties at 771 North and 795 North, 400 West. For motion.
Mr. Chair, I move
Yes.
to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Mono and a second from, was that Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Okay, I know that wasn't, but okay. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call vote it. Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Valdemoros,
Yes.
Mono,
Yes.
Dugan,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously. We are at item E2, which is new business. Sorry, item E2 is a meeting remotely without an anchor location. So we just need to ratify the determination that the council will continue to meet remotely and without an anchor location under HB 5002.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Johnston, a second from Councilmember Fowler. I don't see anyone wishing to discuss this. We'll proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Valdemoros,
Yes.
Mono,
Yes.
Dugan,
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes. Although there needs to be a correction. I did not second that motion. Not that I wouldn't have, but it would be odd if
I
somebody
second.
hears this and then but I still vote
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarification of the record, the second was Councilmember Dugan. And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously. We are at item F, which is unfinished business. We have an item, a resolution that would approve a proposed digital equity policy for Salt Lake City. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that the council adopt a joint resolution approving and adopting the digital equity policy of Salt Lake City.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Johnston, a second from Councilmember Fowler. Is there any discussion to this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, you're so close.
I know. Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. That brings us to the last item, council members, which is the consent agenda. I will look for a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rogers, a second from Councilmember Fowler. Any discussion to this? Seeing none, we'll take our last roll call vote for the night. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Sorry, Valdemoros.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
And Fowler.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. That passes unanimously. Council members and members of the public, that concludes our council meeting for tonight. Thanks for joining us. We are adjourned.